Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swizz, here to just review my last ranking for Supercoach for the year and talk about AFLW Fantasy. As always, thank you again for all the support out there. Thank you to our sponsors, Splash Vodka, Earn You, and Manscaped. And we, as I always say, appreciate all the feedback, especially on Twitter. Supercoach Insider 100 for all the boys, or Swizz26. Ended up finishing with a 24.32 in Supercoach, which put me down 15 spots, down to 305 overall. So that'll be my final ranking, 305. Unfortunately, lost my last grand finals, and so didn't win one this year. Finished third in the our A-League team, one which I think finished fifth overall. So congratulations to all the winners, and hopefully some of the advice we've given helped you get over the line in those grand finals. Well done to a couple of our guests throughout the year. Firstly to JP, who ended up taking out the winner of the Supercoach this season, 50k, and the trophy to him. And I know he's been showing that off on his Twitter account, so congratulations, fantastic effort, mate. And also to Abdul, who I think ended up finishing either might have been fourth, might have slipped to fifth in the end. So terrific effort. It was hard running out of trades there, and he was holding Hewitt for those last 4 weeks. But he was very aggressive and really liked the way he went about it. So, congratulations. It was fourth overall in the end. So, well done there, Abdul. Now we move on, and it's to talk a bit about AFLW Fantasy. So, not run by the traditional platform. So, well done to Marora's Magic for getting this up for another year. A bit different because obviously we've already had one AFLW season this year, and now with the new season starting this week in September, and we've got in August, and we've also got the all the expansion teams joining. So we've now got 18 teams in the AFLW. So Essendon, Hawthorn, Port Adelaide and Sydney, their long wait is going to be over this weekend. And we get into some more footy, and they've got some clear air. Well, obviously we've got the bye weekend before we hit the AFL men's season finals. So the AFLW ladies will be out there this week, and definitely be worth watching to see how they go. A little bit different with the AFL Fantasy, and before we get into that, I'll just repeat. So that's AFLWfantasy.com.au. So you can log on there and have a look. Unlike the traditional Supercoach that we prefer at Supercoach Insider, it is based on sort of the fantasy scores. They've made a few changes for those who played last year. I think there's about $3,000 in prize money this season, which is great because I think they've currently got less than 2,000 people signed up. So unlike the 180,000 that play Supercoach, playing for 50k, there's definitely a better opportunity to win this. And I know one of their sponsors has thrown in $500 for the first week overall. So even if you get involved for the first week and take that out, and then hopefully see enough that and start to pick up some of these names and players, and then you might have them all stick around and keep interested in it. So now it's great that we at least have some content. It helps us start to concentrate on all the different players in the league like we do for Supercoach. So I'm looking forward to sort of getting into it, and it's only we got 9-10 week 10 rounds I think it is this season, so obviously not as long as the men's play. So a couple of differences. Obviously the fantasy points, unlike the Supercoach, so you don't have any of that scaling and that. It's all on there, kicks, handballs, tackles. They do have a utility in it, which makes things a bit interesting. It gives you the kind of the option to make some more of that cash gen, and does give you some backup. So like the old AFL Fantasy, it does lock out on the first game, which some people like, some people don't. But with the utility, you only have the one emergency in each line, so the utility is a backup for each line. There's no sort of this loopholing situation. So unlike Supercoach, where we've got all the rookies and you're kind of loopholing a non-player rookie, it's not really best in this competition. You kind of want that utility as a playing rookie to sort of be there in case one of these players to get named. And one of the biggest issues with AFLW, the teams don't actually come out to 24 hours before the game, so sometimes we don't actually know exactly who is playing, and yeah, you can end up with some donuts there. So you want to try to go players who you think are going to be playing. Now that would seem like a mid-price strategy, but with AFLW, the prices go up quite quick for the rookies. They roll on a 3-game average. So you'll find a lot of the rookie prices do jump up pretty quick. And then that's the same with the top-end premiums. They can drop, but the top-end premiums are the ones that score all the points. It's very lopsided with the scorers there. And you kind of even see from last season, we had in fantasy, Kira Bowles was clearly the number one averaging player, 108.5. The two Adelaide girls in Hatchet and Marinoff were the other two that averaged over 100. And then you go down to the sort of Riddle Miller, and they're the only two in the 90s. And then again, we drop off, and we got there about 7 or 8 in the 80s. So yeah, your highest scorers are definitely the ones that you want to target. So I think the guns and rookie strategy is much better in this than the normal, I guess, the mid-prices. But in saying that, if you think there's going to be a couple of mid-prices that can jump up, definitely worth looking at. So the season kicks off tomorrow night at Icon. We've got Carlton vs Collingwood, the traditional rivals, and backing up from that 1 point classic on the men's game. So hopefully the ladies deliver something similar. And that's off at Icon Park. We've got then Adelaide, Melbourne on the Friday night. North Melbourne, Gold Coast down in Tassie. West Coast playing their first. West Coast, Port Adelaide playing their first game at Mineral Resources Park. Sydney, St Kilda at North Sydney, and that is Sydney's first game. Essendon and Hawthorn both making their debut. That game was going to be at Port Melbourne, but now is at Marvel, and I think I'm going to be getting around to that game too, so that'll be interesting to watch. Bulldogs versus the Giants at Icon. Then we got Brisbane Freo at the Gabba, and Richmond and Geelong going to go down and play at Geelong GmbHA Stadium. So yeah, that's the round 1 fixture. So far we've only got the teams for the first game coming up. Probably the big ones there. They've got a couple big injuries there down at Collingwood. Obviously Brianna Davies not playing. There's Shileka. I'm going to really butcher some of these names, but she's been suffering with a concussion, a really good defender for the Pies, and she has been named. So I think she just comes out of concussion protocols just in time for the game. But just getting kind of back onto these other changes. Last year they didn't actually have the basement price like we have in Supercoach, so I think in Supercoach we can't go under 102k. Yeah, that they had that situation last year, but they've kind of stopped that. So it's the 17-point average, or that equates to 28,700 as their basement price. 3 trades each week, losing or using. 21 player squad, 16 on field, and then the 1 emergency for each spot plus the utility. The fixed lockouts as we talked about. So that's pretty well where it is. So again, you're kind of wanting some rookies there. Just going through my team quickly, just to kind of maybe help people who haven't played before and kind of some of the players you might be looking at. So sort of hopefully get some more news tomorrow as teams are being released, but we'll go off of kind of what I've got as my starting squad at the moment. So Emma Kearney in the defence plays a lot of midfield time for North Melbourne, so I just think she's kind of a lock in there. Well, what more can I say? Yeah, price at 116. So yeah, she's gonna definitely see a lot of ball. I don't know if I can get her stats right up here, but she's a key part of that North Melbourne midfield. Mackenzie Edling, she's a new recruit there. Key position, which kind of don't like, but I think she can hopefully take some intercept marks there. Looked pretty good in the practice match. I've got Alex Ballard as a cheaper player there with Bridie Kennedy. That's the thing. And Molly Eastman. These new clubs, these expansion clubs, are going to be playing a lot of rookies. Obviously, the depth isn't as strong as, for example, the AFL. And you're bringing in 4 new teams. There's obviously going to be a lot more new players there. So I'm kind of, as I said, targeting that kind of gun and rookie. I'm going all defence, pretty well a lot of rookies in there with just the 1 premium, and hopefully, if they can see a bit of ball down defence, and these ladies will get a bit of a price rise. Into the and so just going through a bit of the defence at the moment. I know Foley at 50k is a popular choice. A lot of these other players that I've got are some of the more popular choices at the moment. I know Goodwin also at Port Adelaide at 43,000 is a popular choice, but I'm trying to go that 28 just because if they do play, that price rise is going to be a lot larger. No different to sort of your 102 or 117 player in Supercoach throughout the season. Obviously you can get a bigger spike from them if they play. For the rucks, baseman rucks are the kind of go in AFLW Fantasy. The rucks aren't a huge scorer like we do with with Gawns and your Grundys and Wits and stuff. There's probably 4 that people should be looking at, and you have one on field, one on bench. There might be a couple mid prices there, but I just think it's an easy way to save money. So you got Wells from Hawthorn, Davies from GWS, the other Wells from Essendon, and McGrath from Port Adelaide. So at the moment I have Lucy Wells on field, and I've got McGrath from Port Adelaide on the bench. And then the midfield, and this is kind of where in a perfect world I'd love to load up on more, but some of these prices for some of these players, and I can get up the player stats here, you'll see how that formulates. And of course my AFL Fantasy doesn't want to play ball right now. There it is. So you can see there Kira Bowles is 194,000. Marinoff 176. You got Riddle, Hatchett, who's the one I'm going with, at 173, and then it drops down to Bates and Miller. Miller's the Fremantle captain, 151's not bad value, and I think Sarah Ollie had Emily Bates rated as a number 1 player in the league. Maybe Miller might have been number 2, so both of them might be cheaper prices, and if I can sort of do a restructure, I might try to go Bates and Miller, but I think now with Erin Phillips not there at Adelaide, Hatchett and Marinoff, especially I'm kind of looking at midfielders who like to tackle too. Marinoff's probably more of a tackling machine than Hatchett, but hopefully I think Hatchett might have a little bit more room to grow there, just because of the weather. Usually I think the ladies play, they've been playing January, February, it's a lot hotter, don't get as many stoppages, where now we're in the wet weather, so hopefully that's going to change a few things. Kira Bowles is a tackling machine, absolute star of a player, especially for fantasy, and might, if I can find the extra cash, would love to get up to her. She has missed a few games over the last couple of years, but she missed a practice match because of COVID, so I'm expecting hopefully that now that she's done that and others still may have to miss, she might be a better option, especially as a great captain option. But it's sort of like, okay, where do you sort of save money, because you can't get everybody in that you want. All right, moving back onto my team here. We've got, as I said, that midfield, we've got Hatchett as the number 1 choice. It is a little bit slow loading this up. Tilly Lucas-Rod has moved on from St Kilda, another bit of a tackling machine there, so I've got her sitting as my M2 at the moment. I guess it comes a bit of a choice of who else can I get her up to, and that's where I was kind of looking at sort of Miller, Georgie Patrikos. She is the lady who missed last year because didn't have the COVID vaccine, so she's coming back in. She's got the discount, I think it's 30% they've given her, so 106, I think she's an absolute lock as your M3. Montana Ham is the number 1 pick from this year's draft. 50k, Swans, new team, they're going to have her in the guts. So I think that's a bit of a no-brainer, and I think she's the most owned player in AFLW Fantasy this year. She's about 50% owned, so we'll back her in. And Jasmine Fleming is also one of the new draftees this year. I think she may have even been picked 2 for the Hawks, so the Hawks picked number 1 pick, so we'll back her in at 48,000. Up forward, we've got Tyler Hanks, who she plays as a midfielder, but just played enough forward last year, obviously, to get that forward status. So, I kind of, bit like when we were in Supercoach, some of those forward rookie options I kind of don't like as much. So, I've tried to, where possible, go a little bit more money in the forward line just to sort of shore that area up. Erin Phillips, it's fantastic for her to play for her dad's club. Massive signing, massive transfer to go from Adelaide to Port Adelaide. Obviously, doesn't matter what sort of footy connection you want to talk there. There's obviously a massive rivalry between the two clubs, and it'll be interesting to see how that transfers over the AFLW, but I think it will, especially with Erin moving over. Even at 37 years old, I think she's going to be awesome in that midfield. Hasn't needed to play that much midfield for Adelaide with Hatchett and Marinoff there. So, I think at 128, you can't go wrong. I've gone Chloe Malloy. She's probably my one real mid-pricer in there. I'm backing her to get a lot of midfield time just because of Collingwood's injuries at the moment. So, she's sitting there at the moment. I know she's been named in the midfield for tomorrow night's game. Ella Roberts, maybe the best girl in the country, just because of the way the AFLW draft works. She should have been, could have been 1 or 2 if it was an open draft, but I think because she nominated to go to WA, and West Coast's first pick was pick 14 off the top of my head, so she went there. So massive discount for a girl of her talent. And then Amy Willan, again, I'm back in Sydney to play a lot of rookies because of how they're new team, and they've kind of got no option there. Then on the bench, we've got Philippa Seth, mature age. So if she gets a game, I think she's mature age, who's back from injury. So if she's named round 1, and hopefully she gets some midfield time, that'll be good for us. Alana Barber for the Bombers is my bench midfielder. McGrath, as I talked about at the ruck. Lauren now Sizagel, and please correct me on some of these names because I'm absolutely shocking, as we've seen through the Supercoach season. But she's in the leadership group for Sydney, so 28,000, you're going to think if one of your leaders is going to play, so I'm backing her in. And Ella Heads, I believe, was taking kickouts in the practice match, so has a utility. She can sit there nicely and hopefully generate some cash and be some cover. As I said, things could change when I hear some teams be named tomorrow, but that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of players you're looking at. On the AFLW website, in the teams there, it does have your sort of your percentages and your team percentages, as we do in normal Supercoach. So if we get that up quickly, hopefully that will give some people maybe a bit of a starting position of what you should be looking at. Again, you've got all the break-evens and stuff that we normally have. So if we go into own, there, and it should come up there in a moment for you. There we go. So it's actually 59% now for Montana Ham. There's Ella Roberts, so they're two of the most owned players. Ebony Marinoff, so that's probably where the debate's going to become between her and Hatchett. And then, as we talked about, Patrikos, Shalecki. As I said, I'm going to absolutely butcher some of these names, but so some of those popular choices there, that's probably a good starting choice, and you can sort of go through there and I think use that as a bit of a guide, especially if you're doing guns and rookies. It does make life a lot easier there for you. So as we go across there, and no surprise with these highly owned people, with players, we've got Sydney, Port Adelaide are going to be very popular just because they're new teams. Hawthorn and Essendon there, so it's a kind of good time to get onto some of these basement prices. It does help. Should mention that you also got that information of the previous AFLW drafts. Rowbottom, she came in and just absolutely dominated for the Suns last year. And unlike sort of maybe the men's game, where it takes some of these players a bit of time to develop and come in, just because of the sort of depths and some of these new girls who have come through the system, and they've been in the junior system 5 to 10 years, they're sort of more ready-made to come and make an impact straight away. So that's where Ham and Roberts we expect to make sort of more of an impact. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen that way, but definitely a good option. And then naturally, it's just, you have your vice captain. Don't worry about the loophole. You're kind of just picking that straight captain. You're looking at one of those big 4 or 5 midfielders as your captain, and then just having the backup in case something goes wrong where they pull out. So I think it's kind of that structure where you're looking at 1 or 2 big names in that midfield, and then from there you might want one or two big names in the forward line defence, and then you're trying to cover some of those rookie players. But yeah, maybe go a bit left field, maybe go throw the old Abdul. I think Abdul's going to get involved in that, and he probably will come up with something really left field, and he might take out the $500 first round. So like everything, it's a bit of trial and error, and because they don't have as many people playing, maybe if a few risk and reward situation, that you could put yourself in a position over the 10 weeks to win that nice little prize pool. So yeah, see how you go, give us a shout out and we'll see kind of what happens as the weeks go on. But yeah, once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Bye.